What's up, you guys? So in this video, I'm going to be going over exactly what I'm doing now that I'm sold out of AMD and what company do I think I'm going to be putting a lot of this capital now into. So for those of you that are new to my channel, my name is Dan and this is Millennial Investing. You know, I go over finance topics and investing topics along with tech topics. And I recently just sold out of my AMD position. Now my AMD position I started about a year ago, and you know the stock ran up about 130 or 140%, and I'm completely sold out. I know it went up another almost 10% today, and you know, but it hit my price target, and I'm just out of the company now. And I don't know if I will enter again in the future, but for right now, I'm not looking to enter AMD again. But I'm looking to deploy that capital into other stocks that I think have potential to do what AMD did. Now, I'm looking, you know, at about 5 or so companies right now that I've kind of like broken down, and, you know, I'm getting to the point right now where I think I'm almost ready to invest in a couple of them, and I'm just gonna kind of go over one of the ones that I think is, you know, near the top of that list. And so that company is Skyworks Solutions. So Skyworks Solutions is another semiconductor company that focuses on radio frequencies and device communications, and you know they have a pretty well diversified lot as far as to where their exposure is, unlike say AMD that only really focused on the CPU and GPU space, and they had two big direct competitors that were, you know, time and time again doing better than them up until recently. So it's a little bit safer and it's less high risk, high reward type situation than AMD was. But I think that Skyworks Solutions has a much stabler growth ahead of it over the next, say, 5 years or so. Regardless of what the economy does, whether it goes up or down, I think that once, you know, things start to progress and go further, I think Skyworks Solutions has kind of like smooth sailing ahead of it, you know, as smooth of a sailing as it is in the tech space. But I personally think I'm going to go into it why that I think Skyworks Solutions is probably going to be where I put the majority of the money I just got from selling out AMD. And I'm going to kind of walk through my, you know, my thesis on it. So Skyworks Solutions, as I said, you know, they make communication chips, and they are in smartphone providers, whether it be Apple, Samsung, Huawei, pretty much any major cell phone provider. Skyworks Solutions is trying to enter that space. As it stands right now, between like say iPhone that gets sold, Skyworks Solution gets anywhere between $8 and $10 a unit. So they have pretty decent margins when you look at the amount of cost to chip that they have, and when the amount of units that say get sold through their, you know, clients as far, so like say Apple. Apple is currently their biggest phone provider, but they're currently being very aggressive in the Chinese space. And one of the companies, Huawei, which is actually taking a lot of market share away from Apple in China, it's actually kind of a smart move in my opinion. But so anyways, to kind of give like a more macro look at the whole space. So if you go back a couple of years ago, it was averaged that about 6.3 billion devices were out and that were connected to one another and connected to the internet. And as of about a year ago, that number has ballooned up to 11 billion, and it's determined that it's going to be growing at like close to another 40% per annum over the next few years. And that is kind of monstrous. You guys know that I'm a big tech enthusiast, and I can kind of understand it. You know, the average person now has between, especially in America, has anywhere between 3 and 7 devices. So when you think about, you know, the amount of people in America that have that stature, and then you start to apply that to the rest of the world as other countries start to develop, you know, you start to add up a lot of devices very quickly. And that's not even including the amount of devices, say, used for businesses, used as, you know, technology to, like, you know, produce capital or use as capital, things like that. Like, that's just generic usage from generic residents in, say, United States. So I think that the industry, as far as how many devices are going to be out, are only going to continue to go up over the foreseeable future. And that kind of bodes very well for Skyworks Solutions. And so Skyworks Solutions, kind of, you know, all these devices, what does that really mean for them? They, you know, make chips that allow devices to communicate with one another, whether it be through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, you know, anything that you think that you could send data to one device and receive it on the other. That's where they're trying to make their niche in the chip space. Now, their biggest, say, buzzword, and I'll use buzzword pretty lightly, would be Internet of Things. Now, so I'm sure most of you know, especially if you're watching this type of channel, is that, you know, the biggest buzzwords of the past couple of years in the investment industry and the tech space have been, you know, Internet of Things, autonomous cars, blockchain, and like cloud computing. Now, there are a lot of opportunities in all of these, you know, buzzword categories, but I think Internet of Things, from the way I look at it, is probably the most legitimate way to ensure growth over the next few years. Now, do I think it's going to be the most lucrative, say, 10 years from now? No, but I think that, you know, assuming that we have rocky waters ahead of us, of all of these, 5G and Internet of Things are probably the safest bet as to what's going to happen first. You know, that's mainly because, you know, autonomous vehicles, you have, you know, amazing technology, but then you have so many regulations. You know, cloud computing, everybody's fighting for it, and, you know, now that you have a few solidified members that are probably going to continue to take that market share, you know, I just don't see as big of a growth opportunity in cloud computing as you did a few years ago. And so now I'm really leaning towards Internet of Things right now and the emergence of 5G, which should be happening by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And so with that said, you know, 40% roughly of Skyworks Solutions revenue is coming from cell phones. And that number, I think, is going to be going up because they get about $10 per unit for the average iPhone. But that's not including, say, companies like Huawei, which are just starting out to really gain massive market share in China. And Huawei, in particular, is actually going to possibly be on American servers pretty soon, with AT&T opening up a partnership with them. My roommate actually has a Huawei phone, and, you know, dollar for dollar, it was by far the best phone on the market that I've ever seen. It is a beautiful phone. I personally love the brand, and I have Verizon, so unfortunately I cannot use them. But I was actually really wowed when I saw Huawei's phone. That was the Honor series. They have the P20 now, which is even more ridiculous when you think about the amount of specs in that camera. But anyways, I think Skyworks Solutions making pretty smart, you know, investments in the cell phone market, but they're also trying to diversify. And, you know, they're trying to be in, you know, autonomous vehicles, cloud. You know, they are trying to be in all the buzzwords, but the main one that they're focusing on is realistically Internet of Things. And so Internet of Things, you know, just a really brass tacks explanation of it is I have, say, an Apple Watch, and my Apple Watch is going to read my heart. And based off of what my heart says, it's going to tell my computer that, okay, check what I've eaten because my heartbeat's irregular, or I have high blood pressure right now. Make a note of it. Or, okay, I need to go, you know, I need to go out to the store real quick. Oh, but I forgot to turn all the lights off. Let me take out my phone and, you know, open up an app and turn off all the lights in my house. Though that's the Internet of Things. It allows individual devices to communicate with one another. And I think that as we get more and more into the whole like smart home type landscape, I think that the Internet of Things is going to be a huge industry. And it also plays off of all of the other buzzwords. And I know I keep saying the word buzzword, but it's because you got to understand that you hear these taglines all the time. And if you listen to any tech company or any tech enthusiast talk about it, you hear these words over and over again. So I'm sorry, but I'm just going to keep saying it. With the Internet of Things, you have involvement of the cloud, because all this communication will generally get stored, depending on what the communication is, will get stored on, say, a server someplace. You're going to have, you know, cars eventually when there's autonomous vehicles. These cars are going to need to communicate with one another, and that is technically the act of Internet of Things. Like, so you're going to have a BMW going 80 miles down the 80 miles down the highway, and you're going to have, like, say, a Volkswagen going 40, and then the BMW is going to tell the Volkswagen to move out of the way so that way it can go past it. And Volkswagen, you know, will just move accordingly, and, you know, that's just device communication. So I definitely think that in all areas of tech that everybody seems to be banking on going forward, I definitely think Internet of Things is probably the most practical and the one that's going to have a hand in about everything. Same thing with AI. You know, most devices that are going to be exchanging, you know, data between one another, they're going to have some type of AI embedded in them that is going to allow them to, like, learn small habits of what this data does and what you want to do with the data. So industry growth for Skyworks Solution, I think, is huge, but, you know, that's just, you know, all cool what ifs. Let's break down the actual fundamentals and see why I'm so interested in this company. So if you're on the list, Skyworks Solutions has an amazing balance sheet and cash flow statement. So, you know, just quick overview. They have, right now, they have no debt. They have $1.5 billion in cash, and they have $2.6 billion in current assets. And something to always keep in mind is that with current assets, a large portion of that can be from, like, say, inventory and things like that. And this is excluding, with 1.5 billion just in cash, that is, it bodes well, because you have to think about, okay, the economy goes down, and yeah, the company could have a lot of current assets, but if that's all in inventory and no one's out buying products, they realistically don't have that cash on hand unless they want to take a serious loss on that inventory, discount it, 30% or so to get it out the door, and that, their assets on their balance sheet quickly drop. And so that's something I always keep in mind about, and one of the other reasons why I love Skyworks Solutions. Their price to book value right now is sitting under 4, and the industry average is close to a 5. So, price to book value is kind of hard to gauge, in my opinion, for the tech space, because a lot of their assets are, non-physical assets. So obviously they have the plants where they create all the chips, but all of their patents and all of their, intangible assets do not get counted in the book value. So that's why you generally see the tech area run a bit higher than you do, say, at a retail store or, like a fast food chain. It's generally because those physical assets aren't always on the balance sheet. And so even though that the tech space generally has a higher price to book value on average, Skyworks Solutions seems to be in the lower end of the average. So that's another, it's another bonus, in my opinion, for Skyworks Solutions. Now, if you look at their PE ratio sits about an 18. And the forward PE is, anywhere, I think, around a 16 or 15. And so compared to the broad semiconductor market, that's good. And then compared to their direct competitors, it seems to be right in line. So I don't think that there's any, extreme devaluation as far as the PE is concerned for Skyworks Solutions. But I think that they are just positioned really well for growth. And the fact that they're not overpriced right now, by the PE ratio, is another good sign, in my opinion. Their cash flow right now is at about 1.5 billion. So you can think about that right now in cash. They have a year's worth of income, which I think is pretty smart by the management team, because as we all know, we've been in a great market for, 9+ years. Who knows what the next few years are going to bring for us? So you want to have that cash on hand. And also the company is one of the few semiconductor companies that pays a dividend. And that dividend right now sits at about 1.7% right now, but its payout ratio is only 26%. So that means that only 26% of the, the retained earnings that the company's getting, it's divvying out into dividends. So that means that 1, the dividend's pretty safe, and 2, that dividend isn't taking enough capital away from, say, research and development. So that means that they're still dumping a lot of money into research and development, and that's kind of something that you really need to keep in mind, because with tech companies, especially in the semiconductor space, if they don't prioritize research and development, they get eaten alive. They get chopped out, and someone will come out with a new tech and completely replace them. And that's kind of the real, risk in dealing with tech companies, is that there's always going to be someone who's going to make a better chip. And it's just, can they get there before you can, and can they get to the market before you can? So through all that, the balance sheet is really one of the reasons why I fell in love with Skyworks Solutions. I think that between the balance sheet, the industry growth, and kind of the management team that's running it right now, I think that Skyworks Solutions is posed for a really good next 5 years. That's about it. If you guys stuck to the end of this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be going more in depth with Skyworks Solutions, especially, and I'll let you guys know if I start positioning them. I definitely see some really good opportunity here. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.